young Cameron and how I got to where I am today. Probably drop back to when I was 5 years old, maybe 6 years old, I can't really remember, but young Cam actually grew up in a hardworking Dutch family. So my dad was a builder, developer, and as a kid, often I'd have to go to the job site and help sweep out a house before I could ever go to soccer practice. So as I got older, every evening, weekend, spring break, summer holidays, I spent on the job site on top of doing school, sports, those types of things. So when I graduated, I'm like, I never want to be on the job site for the rest of my life. I think I want to be a doctor. So I actually, to back up a little bit too, as I played school sports and really liked it, and I decided that I was going to play university basketball. And so I got a tiny scholarship to play on the sports team at the local college. So instead of playing basketball, I actually decided that I would play volleyball because it was going to be easier and I didn't have to run so hard. And I decided to go become a doctor. And so I signed up for all of my courses. So I signed up for like physics, calculus, biology, English, and then all of the labs. And I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to make money. I thought girls liked it, and I wanted to give back. But what I found is after the first semester is our volleyball team basically drove around all around the province, and I didn't get the grades that I thought I was going to get. And so I lasted one semester. I'm like, this is not the life that I want to be living anymore. So I dropped out and I ended up back at the job site. And so I remember back then, I think I was making like $16 an hour. And that's when my entrepreneurial spirit really started to wake up. I was like, well, if I make $16 an hour and I save up, I can actually buy myself my first rental house in a couple of years. And then I could stay at home and then I could actually gain the rent from that house. And so I remember being on the job site and I would count the minutes down to coffee break and the minutes to lunch break and the minutes to the end of the day. I even calculated what I was worth per minute. And I remember shoveling and be like, man, I'm worth like 13 cents a minute. What am I doing? And so there's a moment that I'll never ever forget. I was 20 years old. I was digging a trench in the pouring rain in the Pacific Northwest. And this white car comes up. It's pouring rain, like I probably said, and this umbrella pops out and this girl comes out with her high heels and she kind of tiptoes past me and she goes into the house and I'm like, that's what I want to do. And I remember all I wanted at the time is I wanted to make money, get out of the rain, and talk to people. And so that night I actually signed up for my real estate course. And then 6 months later, I passed it. At the time you needed 65% to pass. I got 66%, which is so funny. My ego was probably so big that if I would have failed back then, I'd been like, screw real estate, not worth it. But thankfully I passed and I made it. And so that person actually ended up becoming my mentor later on. But I remember going to my brokerage or to our brokerage to interview, and I knew nothing about anything. And I went to the managing broker and I was like, hey, I think I want to work here. And I was so excited that he accepted me that I didn't know that I should have been interviewing other brokerages. I remember we did the paperwork and we signed up, and then he's like, all right, Cam, good luck, go get her. And I was like, I stood up and I'm like, what do I do next? And he goes, oh, well, the phone's over there, good luck. And so I literally stood up out of his office. I walked over to the bullpen and I was nervous for a couple of minutes and I didn't know what to do. So I just walked out of the office. And then I remember I ordered signs and I had no clue what to do. And so since I was still working full-time in construction, I thought, well, I might as well do open houses because at least people will come to me and see the house. And so I was lucky enough to get some listings from our family. And so I'd work every day on the job site from 7:30 to 4:30 or 7 to 3, and then have a change of clothes in my truck. And then I would go do an open house after every day from 4 to 6 typically. And then I would do a couple on the weekends. And so I got my license in 2006, the very end. I did my very first deal on Christmas Eve, ironically. And then in 2007, my first full year in real estate, I ended up selling over 30 houses. And I thought I was God's gift to real estate. I thought I was so good at it. And then what happened is I would work on the job site, I would go to the open house and people would come in and they'd be like, wow, you look like our grandson. I'm like, great, do you want to buy a house? And they would say, yes, we do want to buy the house. And I was essentially an order taker in my first year. And I thought I was good, but I actually had zero skills. So after my first year, I did what every realtor does. I bought myself a Mustang GT. I bought myself, not only had I bought a rental house at this point, I'd already bought a personal house for myself. And I spent every last dollar that I made. Then in 2008, the market crashed. It was the Great Recession. And people were still coming to open houses, but suddenly something changed. They would say, oh, we need to think about it. I'd be like, oh, no problem, think about it. Because I never wanted to be that cheesy salesperson. But the weird thing is they would never come back. And so that was one of the first sales skills that I didn't know that I even was missing. We call it, say, the ghost of real estate. And so you know it's there, you can see it, you know it's in the room, but you can't really touch it. And so they would say, I want to think about it. And what I needed to know is that it's just objection handling. There's either floor plan, price, or location. One of the three needs to be solved, but I had no idea. Anyways, so I remember that I basically was broke. And then my accountant called me towards the end of the year, like, hey, Cam, congratulations, your taxes are due and you must have had a good year last year because you have a lot of taxes to pay. And I was like, what? I didn't know that I needed to pay taxes. And so she's like, yeah, you owe the government $25,000. Now I was 21 or 22 years old. I had just bought a Mustang GT for $25,000. and I had no money to pay my taxes. Remember, I went to the bank, I got a line of credit, and I got a line of credit for $25,000 to pay for my taxes. I remember the bank manager came and he goes, "Oh, what do you need this for?" And I was like, "I'm starting a new business in real estate and I need, a budget to do marketing stuff." And I was too scared to tell him that I actually had to go pay my taxes. So fast forward a whole bunch of years, not even a whole bunch of years, we'll back up a little bit, sorry, is in 2008, I was now broke, I owed taxes. So I went to my managing broker at the same company and I said, "I don't know what to do, I'm not gonna make it." And he goes, "Cam, I don't know what to tell you." He's like, "Maybe try this." And he like opens up the drawer in his office and pulls out the CD. It was this old cheeseball sales guy from the 80s or 90s. But that was actually like my light bulb moment in real estate. I didn't know that I didn't have any sales skills. I didn't know that I didn't know how to communicate or how to prospect or how to set up my business. So I put the CD into my truck and I probably listened to it like 1,000 times at this point. And that really, really changed my career. So from that point on, I'm like, okay, I need to be a lifelong learner. And so I read every book I could get my hands on. I started taking, now it's podcasts. Back then it was sales CDs. I went to conferences. And I remember in 2008, I'm probably only sold 13 or 14 houses. And then I doubled that the next year. And then I doubled it the next year. And then I doubled it the year after that. And I think by 2010 or 2011, I was selling over 100 houses a year. I was lucky enough to be ranked top 30 realtors under 30 in Canada from all of the brands. And what I didn't notice is a lot of realtors weren't selling houses still, but I was in my own world. I was working hard and I was really learning, and it really kind of launched me into my career. And so to back up a little bit too, is I remember being a young guy in the office and all these older guys would walk through and be like, "Man, I wish I would have bought a house when I was your age." And so the one thing that I did manage to do is at every single opportunity, I just bought a house whenever I could for a rental, which is a whole nother story, but it's really got me to the place that I want to be now. So how did I start a brokerage and why do I want to be a coach? I dropped out of university volleyball, but what happened is when I dropped out, then I started coaching the local high school basketball team. And that was another moment in life where I'm like, oh man, I have way more fun coaching and teaching these guys how to be young men than I ever did playing basketball. That was kind of like my litmus test where I'm like, man, I actually think I want to help and teach and coach and mentor realtors. Mentored my first realtor, 2013, 2014. I was like, this is fun. I want to do more of it. In 2016, I remember going to my managing broker. I'm like, hey, I think I want to do something. I want to be a manager. And he nicely said that there's no room and that I should start my own thing. In 2017, I decided to start my own brokerage. So I left with me and my assistant and 2 other realtors from the den of our house. And then within 5 years, we were over 100 realtors doing $1 billion in real estate. And all we cared about was culture and education. And then obviously the people became a massive part of it. But man, that coaching, teaching, mentoring has been so much fun to me. So that's how we got to where we are today. Oh man, if I knew now what I knew then, I probably wouldn't have done it. So, I mean, transparently, like it's funny. So when I made the decision to own my own brokerage, I had a couple people take me out for lunch and tell me I was going to fail. They're like, Cam, you don't have the skills. It's not a good business. You're not going to make it. And that kind of put a chip on my shoulder a little bit. But what I knew is from selling houses is that I just had to be the best learner possible. And so I just surrounded myself with mentors and people who are good at the brokerage business and just started working hard. And then everything I had learned in real estate, I'm like, I'm just going to teach it. I'm not going to hold anything back, and everything I've done, I'm just going to teach to my realtors. And so I kind of stuck to that method. I feel like I've had so many moments, but I remember being a young guy in the office or my first brokerage, and I had a mentor assigned to me, but then there was this other mentor in our office, and she was like this elusive multimillionaire that we had heard about. And I walked into her office and I sat down, and the market was chaotic and things were going on, but I sat in her office and she was calm and she was cool and she was collected. She like opened up her drawer and she's like, "Oh, do you want to see my files back to 1981? And everything just seemed smooth and organized. And I'm like, this is the person that I want to be like. And so I learned quickly that I should surround myself with people like that, because that's the type of person that I wanted to be. So small moment, but it meant everything to me in real estate. Great question. Like I always say, like we're the 6th man. So we're the average of the 5 people we hang out with most. And so if you want to have better relationships, hang out with people with better relationships. If you want to sell more houses, hang out with people that want to sell more houses. And it's crazy. There's this guy that I know and he owns a whole bunch of apartments. He's like, Cam, how come you're not building apartments yet? And I'm like, well, I don't know. But if I hung out with that group of people, I would build more apartments. Whereas if I hung out with someone who had never bought a house in their life, that's fine. But I probably would veer towards never ever buying real estate. And so I've always just looked up to and admired certain people. And I'm like, that's the type of person I would want to be like. And so I just, forcefully become their friends. Oh man, like I feel like that mentor that I talked about earlier where I walked into her office, she was kind of always been a staple where she was consistent. But a lot of my mentors is actually through books and through training courses because there wasn't a lot of people in our small town that had taught me a lot of those skills. And so I kind of had to go outside of our town and read a lot of books and just do what other people had did. So I love biographies of people and I would read their stories and I would just basically just apply it to my life. To back up, I'm just a regular guy like everybody else. I'm from a small town. I'm no different from anyone. I just really believe that if you make every day count and apply yourself, you can do some really cool things in life. So I love adventure. I love challenging myself. I love pushing the limits. And I love hanging out with my family and being able to do the things I want to do really matters to me. So I feel like a regular guy from a small town is be able to create a life of freedom where I get to do some really neat things. As I've taught now hundreds of realtors in our office, there's a couple of themes that kind of keep coming up. Number one is most new agents just don't have sales skills. So they jump in and they're like, oh, I want to walk my kids to school and I want to have time and I want to make money. But none of them ever spend the time to actually build proper skills, nor do they even know like the step-by-step guide of how to get there. And so lots of what I teach is like, there's like real estate has basically three concepts: get clients, keep clients, and get referrals. And we start with like the framework of there, and then we kind of build it out from there. But if I back up from that, the number one thing that I find is it's like, are you going to take action or are you not going to take action? That's really what separates people. You can give them everything that they need to succeed and they still won't succeed is because they're not willing to take the right action steps. I think real estate's harder than what they think. So on TV, we see, all these people where they'd see 3 houses and they buy a house and it shows the commission amount. So I think it's easier than they think. Our business has a lot of rejection and you have to have a lot of proactive connections. And I feel like you have to just be raw and put yourself out there. And it's not always the easiest thing. And so people will get rejected once or twice or 3 times, and then they'll almost just be scared to take the next action because they don't want to get rejected again. So I hate rejection more than anyone in the world, probably. So I will never be the coach that says, chase 1,000 no's to get 1 yes. I actually hate that concept. And so I really want to teach realtors to be a relationship type of based business. And so if I build a relationship and I bring value to people, they're going to come to me and then I can actually help them through the transaction. So I'd rather be a real estate consultant than chase all of those no's. So I'm not going to teach you how to lead gen and how to do all the cheesy stuff. I'm all about like, how do you build a relationship? How do you bring value? And then I know that I'm the best person to help sell my client's house because I actually care about them and I know the market. So it's important for a bunch of reasons. Number one, real estate is such a lonely business. So we get our license and then it's like us against the world. And people are just better together. It's one of my fundamental beliefs. And so I really want to set a culture that people, when we're together, we're going to be better. And so when we learn together, it's a good thing because you'll have more experienced people teaching kind of newer people, and then you'll have newer people giving energy to the older people. I think there's a lot of humility that comes from that learning environment too, because if you know it all, then there's nothing else to learn. And so you're not going to change. So if you set up a culture where people are willing to like learn and change and help each other, it's just so massive. I always want our agents to have doors open and friendly conversations. It's not like the old days where you like lock your doors, insulate the walls, hide your phone calls so people don't hear what you're doing. I really care about sharing everything you know at this point. I think there's just so much business for everybody and I'd rather set up that culture. Yeah, I think in the last year and a half, we've gone through a pretty hefty recession. So we've had interest rates that have risen at a quicker pace than they even raised in 1981. And so again, it kind of exposes the lack of sales skills that a lot of agents had. So we had 4 or 5 really, really good years and we forgot how hard you actually have to work in this industry. And so you have to be consistent to your database. You have to have some sales skills and you have to bring value to your database. And so I think a lot of realtors just weren't doing that and didn't need to do that. And so it really kicked him in the face, this one. So I think that's what it is, just getting back to the fundamentals right now. Yeah, so fundamental number one is real estate is broken up into 2 things: get the business and do the business. And so everything falls down to getting the business though, ironically, because anyone can do the business. Anyone can do the paperwork. You can meet for signatures, you can call home inspections, but not everyone has the ability to get the business. And so when you look at every single one of your days, it needs to be broken up into 2 pieces. How are you going to get the business? And then once you have the business, then how are you going to be a pro at doing the business? If that makes sense. So it's get the business, do the business. And from there, you really need to learn how to create a proper mature business. So a mature business in real estate has got 3 things. It's get business, get clients, keep clients, and get referrals. And so the average person in North America moves about every 6 years right now. And so if you sell somebody a house in 6 years from now, they're going to come back if you do a good job and they're going to use you again. That's a much easier person to work with because they know, like, and trust you than chasing internet leads or door knocking or doing something that people don't want to do in today's world, nor would I want to do those things. And so I really want to focus on getting clients, keeping clients, and then building a culture of referrals in your business. So for a new agent that has their real estate license, you need to lock yourself in a room, take your phone away from yourself, and you need to build yourself a database. You got to put 80 to 150 names on that database. That database has names, phone numbers, addresses, that kind of thing. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get a 12-month program in terms of how am I going to bring value to these people and how am I going to connect with them. I think too many realtors are they're not willing to give value. So, like, do a handwritten birthday card. Do a proper market update that you write where you're like, hey, here's what I think the market's going to do for investors. Here's where it's the good parts for first-time home buyers. Here's the bad part about upsizing, downsizing, whatever. And just give like an accurate market representation. That's how all new agents should start. Get a database, bring value to your database. And then at that point, then you should start doing open houses as often as you can. So 21-year-old Cameron didn't know what to do, so I started open houses. They are one of the best sources of business. I teach my agents always go fishing where the fish are, and the fish come to open houses all the time. And so they're coming to you. You don't have to be cheesy. You just ask them questions, and then we can teach a whole bunch of ways to kind of close from open houses. So I grew up on a construction job site. And so my dad was born in Holland. So I would say, like, an immigrant family. I was a son of an immigrant family. It really teaches you work ethic. And so I didn't know then how many skills I was learning in life. And so you watch people who are stuck in a job that they don't like, and you're like, wait a minute, I don't know if I want to do that. But it also starts, like, doing hard things is really good for who we are, because then we know what we don't want to do, or we want to know how we're going to do a better job. And so those early years taught me work ethic, taught me the housing industry, and taught me that I don't want to shovel all the time anymore. So starting construction has made me so grateful for what I have now. Like, lots of people need to be in the construction industry. They're meant for that industry. I actually still own a construction company and build houses every year because I can't get it in my blood. I love creating, but doing hard things helps us to know what we want to be doing in the future. So now when I'm in my office and it's 9 a.m. and it's pouring rain or it's snowing, I'm sipping my coffee and I'm talking to people. I am so fired up because I know that I'm not in, like, rain pants outside, freezing, putting siding on the side of a wall or something. So it was really good for me. The agent who shows up in a Ferrari and they've sold, 4 houses and they got their Gucci glasses, and good for them if that's what they've done. The agent that I really want to work with is the one who wants to be a lifelong learner. I think too many people think realtors are the ones that don't work hard and they go for happy hours and they do those things. And some of them do, but for the most part, like 80 or 90% of the people I work with, they're just regular people trying to make it work. And so I find in today's world, if you can find a realtor who actually is hungry to learn and wants to apply themselves, it's just such a different experience compared to the ones that are, full of the ego in themselves and everything else. Oh man, education was everything to me. Like, I had that funny moment where I was basically broke and went to my boss's office and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, oh, I don't know, try the CD. I just think education can help anyone get to the place that they want to go. So we can't change what we did yesterday, but we can change the person that we are today and we can move forward tomorrow. And so I really believe that education can put anyone into a place that they want to be. And I'm just a regular guy and I've got to do some really cool things because I just jumped into the seat and learned and applied everything I absolutely could. And so if I could do that, I know that anyone can do it. And so that's why I love education. It's fun.